From Vermont Public and the NPR Network, this is Brave Little State. I'm Josh Creighton, and I'm here with local historian and independent reporter Kelby Greene, who lives in Norwich. Hi, Kelby.
Hi, Josh.
So, Kelby, you are the host and creator of a show called Roadside Vermont, where you drive around the state stopping at roadside markers and monuments and explaining their backstories, basically.
Pretty much. My record mileage is 750 miles in the state of Vermont in 1 week.
That is extremely impressive, and we're very happy to have you here today because normally on the show, people submit questions about Vermont to us. But in this case, someone brought their Vermont question to you, and you set out to find an answer. So take us back. Where did this all start?
It all started with this family in White River Junction that I babysit for. A couple years back, John Haffner, the dad, was digging around the yard building this retaining wall. And he was tearing up sod and digging in the dirt. And then, all of a sudden, his shovel hit something hard.
I kept hitting what initially I thought were rocks, but then continued to keep digging up pieces of glass bottles.
And it wasn't just one glass bottle.
Okay.
It was tons of them. They were all over the yard.
I had no idea what they were and was confused as to why they just seemed to be littered throughout the yard and buried and in numerous different places.
These weren't just your average glass bottles. They looked really old, kind of like old liquor bottles, and they had all of these strange names embossed or stamped right onto the surface of the glass.
The bottles all had something like remedy or tonic, quick cure, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, this is some old-timey pharmacy stuff. These are things that I guess existed, but they sound sort of fake.
Like snake oil.
100%. And wait, so why did John come to you with questions about these bottles?
Well, he knew about this story I've been working on for my podcast, Roadside Vermont. Basically, in the late 1800s, there was a ton of DIY medicine making happening all over the place, but especially right here in Vermont. Everyone was going crazy for it. Up in Enosburg Falls, there used to be a company run by Dr. B.J. Kendall. He was this sort of charismatic doctor who claimed to have found the best cures for everything. They found bottles of his stuff in California, Western Canada, and even Australia. Some are now at the Smithsonian, actually. His company was a big deal, which isn't to say the medicine was good for you. A lot of these cures had very high levels of alcohol and opium.
Yikes. That is heavy stuff. But if his medicine is significant enough to be in the Smithsonian, maybe the bottle John found buried in his backyard is too?
Maybe so. I actually brought one of the bottles he found with me to the studio today.
Let's see.
So it's this 5 or 6 inch tall bottle. It's kind of clear aqua color with little bubbles in it.
Definitely glass. It's sort of narrow, too. It really would fit in your back pocket or in your nightstand or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's also surprisingly clean for a bottle that's been just buried underneath the earth for who knows how long.
There's a tiny chip in it, and that's about it. And it has this name on it. D.W. Bancroft's Liniment or Instant Relief.
Liniment or Instant Relief?
Yeah.
That does seem like a pretty good promise.
Exactly. I want some instant relief. And then it has a place on here, Marshfield, Vermont. So John gave me this bottle, which is clearly related in some way to this DIY medicine craze that swept Vermont in the 1800s. And he wanted me to find out,
why are there so many medicine bottles in our yard?
And what's the story behind this D.W. Bancroft?
And what was in the medicine?
And, is it worth anything?
And so you have come today with some answers. And we're going to turn it over to you right after this break.
Support for Brave Little State comes from the Vermont Bookshop in Middlebury, offering a curated collection of books for the holidays and every day since 1949. VermontBookshop.com. And Willing Hands, recovering fresh food to reduce waste, end hunger, and build thriving communities throughout the Upper Valley region of Vermont and New Hampshire, working to get meals on the table for those experiencing food insecurity this holiday season. Learn more about volunteer opportunities at willinghands.org.
Every fall, there's a convention for bottle collectors in Keene, New Hampshire, 30 minutes east of the Vermont border. Of course, I had to attend, and I brought the bottle John gave me to try and get some answers. Tables and tables full of antique glass bottles are all crowded into a high school gymnasium. One table is covered in rows of locally made glass in every color of the rainbow. Another is full of glass trinkets, animal figurines, nativity scene type pieces. On one table is a dark brown whiskey flask from the 1700s. It's worth upwards of $1,400. And behind every table is a very proud glass collector showing off their best finds. Like Michael Stefano. He has a number of old medicine bottles on his table, bottles that look a little bit like the one question asker John Haffner gave me. And Michael knows a bit about the time period when this medicine was produced.
So people experienced so much pain and debilitating sickness in the 19th century. They didn't have access to good health care. The quality of the food was bad, generally speaking. So they marketed all kinds of remedies. So, liniments and cures like this were quite common.
By the way, a liniment is like a topical oil or ointment you'd rub on sore muscles. Think Bengay or Icy Hot. But back then it described pretty much any sort of medicine.
And back then there were no regulations, so you could claim that this would cure cancer, you could claim anything you wanted, and perfectly legal at that point in time.
Charismatic entrepreneurs all over Vermont concocted their own products and gave them lots of memorable names. Dr. Rowell's Invigorating Tonic in Franklin, N.K. Brown's Teething Cordial in Montpelier, Dr. Ingram's Nervine Pain Extractor in Vergennes, D.W. Bancroft's Liniment or Instant Relief in Marshfield.
Definitely Vermont Bottle in Marshfield.
Jim Charuis of Bellows Falls is the president of the Yankee Bottle Club, which hosts the convention. I give him the bottle from John's backyard to inspect. He holds it up, one hand on either end, and twists it around to get a closer look.
It's, aqua, square, I would say 1880s, 1890s, by the lip treatment. The line up, the seam of the glass doesn't go up to the lip or through the lip. So indicating it's a blown bottle. Yes, it's a beautiful hand-blown bottle.
It is a pretty interesting bottle because it has the name of the doctor on it.
The next collector I talked to is another Michael George. Michael's like, John's bottle is pretty interesting, but not that interesting. It's not as old as the most sought-after bottles. Also,
this is an aqua, so this is a much more common color. But it's still a nice early bottle and would look great in somebody's window.
It would look great in somebody's window. Yikes. It's starting to seem like this bottle might not be the hottest item at the convention. A collector named Don Pelletier throws some more cold water on our bottle in question.
And it's not really that special. You'll probably see them here for $20 or less, usually.
Then I meet a collector named Lane. He's into bottle hunting. His uncle taught him where to find old bottles buried in the ground.
My rule is within 10 feet of anywhere in this place, there's a dump.
Littering didn't mean what it does today. People were pretty carefree about getting rid of their trash wherever it was convenient. Like, say, an empty lot or the woods behind their house. Lane says anywhere in New England, there's probably an old dumping ground nearby.
So you walk 10 steps and you're going to find a dump. Right over the creek, there's probably a dump that people threw milk bottles or soda bottles or medicine bottles.
And those bottles are more likely to survive underground because they don't rust like metal or decompose like wood and paper.
And so you can get all these very rare and exotic bottles free if you dig them.
So John Haffner's backyard was probably an old 1800s trash heap. And all that remains today are the medicine bottles. which, according to my new friends at the convention, are probably not going to turn John into an Antiques Roadshow millionaire. But I still want to learn more about the bottle's namesake doctor, D.W. Bancroft. That's when we come back.
Support for Brave Little State comes from Common Ground Center in Starksboro, a nonprofit offering event space and lodging for retreats, meetings, and celebrations. Learn more about their gathering spaces and programs at cgcvt.org.
Welcome back to Brave Little State. Josh here, and I'm back in the studio with Kelby. Hi, Kelby.
Hey, Josh.
So you got back from the bottle convention with some pretty good clarity about the bottles John Haffner found in his backyard, but not so much about the guy whose name is on the glass, D.W. Bancroft. So what did you do next?
Well, I decided to put my history degree to work. I started by searching D.W. Bancroft's name in a newspaper archive. So the earliest mention I could find was in this publication called the Green Mountain Freeman. Apparently, in 1854, he won an award. I've got a clip for you, Josh, you can look at.
Okay, let's see. It says, at the Washington County Fair in the vegetables and fruit category, he won second place for best pears. Well done, Mr. Bancroft. Dr. Bancroft.
No, he's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor.
Well done, Mr. Bancroft. Although apparently they weren't as good as L.M. Scott's pears.
I don't want second place pears.
Okay, what else did you find?
So then in an 1868 edition of the Argus and Patriot, Bancroft started advertising his very own invention.
Okay, let's see. It says here, Green Mountain Washer. Is that a washing machine?
The best ever invented is what it says.
It must be true.
Now, I can't personally attest to the effectiveness of his washing machine, but it doesn't seem like it was a huge commercial success.
It was the best ever invented. How is that possible?
Well, about a year later, the ads disappear altogether.
Okay, so he's been through pears, and then he was in his washing machine era, and then where did he go next?
Well, he went to medicine. In late 1869, Bancroft started advertising a vegetable liniment to cure pains and other ailments.
Sort of like the bottle that started this whole thing.
A little bit.
Okay, so did this venture fare better than his failed washing machine venture?
I think this venture really took off. Over the next 10 years, he advertised more and more across the state in a bunch of different newspapers. But he also launched a ton of new products, like a liver syrup for purifying the blood and liver,
Ooh.
a lung syrup, a powder for horses and livestock, a worm elixir. Josh, could you read that newspaper ad?
Yeah, so this says, Bancroft's worm elixir will destroy them. Try it. D.W. Bancroft, Marshfield, Vermont. He will destroy the worms.
Exactly. So then business was going so well for Bancroft, he bought his own printing press to print his own ads. He moved to a bigger shop, but then things ended just as quickly as they'd begun. His ads disappear entirely in the 1880s. And it might have something to do with an article in the Daily Journal.
Okay, so you've pulled this up here, and this is 1886, and it says D.W. Bancroft of Marshfield and a bunch of other people are convicted for selling, furnishing, and giving away intoxicating liquors contrary to law.
Basically, he was illegally selling liquor when there was statewide prohibition.
And was he selling them in his medicine?
I think so. After that, there are no more ads for any of Bancroft's medicines.
Wow, so it really was a very particular type of instant relief.
Yeah, pretty strong stuff. And then in 1887, he rents out his shop to a saddle maker, and his business is done. So here's what we know for sure. D.W. Bancroft was this tinkerer in Marshfield, Vermont, who just sort of found his way into the medicine trade, which it turns out was actually a pretty common story in Vermont back in the day. Amanda Gustin, Director of Collections and Access at the Vermont Historical Society, refers to this period of the late 1800s as the era of heroic medicine. The heroes being people like Bancroft, inventors of supposed miracle cures.
Today, I don't necessarily think about the singular person who discovered a medicine or formulated a drug. I think about like the teams of scientists who did the trials and did all the experiments leading up to it. And this is more an era where it was one guy at his bench and he figured it out.
When Bancroft made his cures, he likely did so without any formal training. Tons of enterprising druggists and tinkerers across the country marketed similar cures. They would file a patent for their concoctions, earning them the name patent medicines. Amanda shows me an advertisement for a Vermont-made lung curl. That's C-U-R-L.
Curl Medicine Company? So I'm going to describe it since we're on audio. This is a outline pug, very lavishly painted little pug who has a tag attached to his collar that said, "I am a Curl dog, you see. I neither bark nor bite. If you will use lung curl, you will not bark all night." So it's an anti-coughing. But it's kind of ridiculously charming.
The ingredients that make up these unregulated medicines varied widely. One drug Amanda shows me seems pretty harmless.
Witch hazel, arnica, rosemary, hemlock, cedarwood, camphor, castile soap, and ammonia water. Like some of those you'd see in a natural foods section today.
But others, they were chock full of opium, alcohol, and even poisons. In an old recipe notebook, Amanda pulls out the ingredient list for a drug made in Norwich, Vermont. It was called Newton's Hair Pills.
Socratine aloe, scuminy, colocyntin. His handwriting is not great. Calomel, that one I know. That is a medication that contains high degrees of mercury. Yep.
The Historical Society also has our bottle in its collection, D.W. Bancroft's Liniment or Instant Relief. Sadly, there isn't a full ingredient list, though Amanda says that most of these cures did have alcohol in them. With the benefit of hindsight, these 19th century cures, wild, unregulated medicines, seem really risky, like obvious scams. I mean, today we have a whole establishment that regulates and tests medicines before they can even be given to humans. We have doctors and pharmacists who are certified as professionals. Back then, any individual could cook up a cure and promise the most. It's the definition of snake oil. But Amanda says there's another, more generous way to consider this history.
We have such a 20th, 21st century worldview. We're so used to the scientific method and it's proven and everything like that. And if we didn't know any of that, if we weren't even at the base level scientifically literate, if almost no one was, and imagine you were very, very sick, you would want to feel better. Imagine if the horse that you depended on for your livelihood was lame, and if you did not fix that lameness, you were not going to get the crop in and your family might starve. Imagine one of your children had asthma 100 years ago. It's a terrifying disease now, and we have modern steroids and other medicines. It's absolutely understandable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not like they all had a primary care physician and they decided to go with this random unestablished medicine like this was in some ways the establishment, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Some of these are pre-even accreditation of medical schools and things like that. I generally have a great deal of sympathy for people who are involved in all of this.
We don't know what was in D.W. Bancroft's heart as he concocted his liniment or instant relief, his liver syrup, his worm elixir. It's easy to speculate. Maybe he was a fraudster and mixed up so-called medicine to make a quick buck. Or maybe it's more complicated, and he was actually doing his best to help people, but lacked any formal training. And all that's left are these glass bottles, pieces of garbage that survived more than a century buried underground in what is now John Haffner's backyard. In the future, at least they'll look nice in his window.
Thanks to John Haffner of White River Junction for the great question. If you have a question about Vermont, our region, or its people, ask it at bravelittlestate.org and follow the show in your favorite podcast app. This episode was reported by Kelby Greene. Editing and production from the BLS team, Sabine Pooks, Burgess Brown, and me, Josh Crane. Our executive producer is Angela Evansy. Theme music by Ty Gibbons. Other music by Blue Dot Sessions. Special thanks to Shirley Duso and Creighton Hall. Kelby's reporting for the story was supported by a grant from Vermont Humanities in partnership with the Vermont 250 Commission and JAM, Junction Arts and Media. Brave Little State is a production of Vermont Public and a proud member of the NPR Network.
How does AI even work? Where does creativity come from? What's the secret to living longer? TED Radio Hour explores the biggest questions with some of the world's greatest thinkers. They will surprise, challenge, and even change you. Listen to NPR's TED Radio Hour wherever you get your podcasts.